Every once in a while you come across a game that just completely captivates you and provides a rich experience that sticks with you forever. For me, that game is Earthbound. From the first time I played it in 5th grade, I knew it was something special. I was immediately drawn to the colorful visuals, varied locales, interesting characters, and the humorous dialogue. The story pits a young hero named Ness on a mission to stop the invasion of the cosmic destroyer Gaius. Through your travels, you make friends that will assist you in your quest. This is just a fantastic experience, and it quickly became my favorite game of all time. Earthbound is actually the sequel to a Famicom game called Mother. The story and themes of this game are very similar to that of Earthbound's, or Mother 2 as it's known in Japan, but we never saw a North American release. Due to the volume of popularity of the first game in the series in Japan, Earthbound hit the store shelves here in the States in 1994. Touting a larger-than-average box and an awesome included player's guide, the game demanded a higher price than other games on the market. Due to this and poor advertising, the game didn't sell well. Earthbound 64, or Mother 3 in Japan, was planned for the failed Nintendo 64 disk drive in the mid-90s, but was ultimately scrapped after years of development. Eventually, Mother 3 was revitalized and released on the Game Boy Advance in Japan. With no expressed plans to release the game in North America, despite the outcry of an ever-growing cult following, a fan translation project was underway. It took multiple years and numerous contributors to finish, but finally, in 2008, the translation patch was available for download by thousands of fans dying to play the game. The version of the game I'll be using for this episode is a reproduction cartridge that includes that fan translation. Now that you know a little bit about the Mother series, let's get into the game itself. Mother 3 begins in the peaceful village of Tasmania. Here the people live a carefree life. Everyone knows each other and they live harmoniously with one another, as well as the animals that inhabit the surrounding areas. Things have been this way since before anyone can remember. Once the backdrop of this peaceful village is painted, tragedy strikes. There seems to be a dark force at work, taking the form of a mysterious pig mask army. These masked men aim to modify the once calm and friendly animals, changing them into twisted mechanized beasts that attack on sight. Their actions shortly lead to destruction, death, and loss. This extremely sad start of the story really sets the tone for a peaceful society completely rocked by tragedy. Nothing could have prepared them for something of this magnitude, and their lives would change forever. Now that I've given you a basic rundown of the start of the story, let's talk about the mechanics. Similar to Earthbound, there aren't really random battles. Enemies can be seen before they attack and can sometimes be avoided if you don't want to mess with them. The battle sequences all have the crazy backgrounds the series has become known for. There's something that sets the battles apart from its predecessors though, a musical theme. See, each character's attack makes a chime of a different musical instrument, and a music note is displayed. It's possible to chain up to 16 hits together to maximize your damage for that turn. To do this, you need to tap the A button as it corresponds to the enemy's heartbeat. There's a bunch of different songs that play through the battles, and finding the beat for each one can be easier said than done. However, this makes the fights a little more interesting and can be super satisfying making short work of enemies in this fashion. Speaking of the music, as you'd expect, it's all done really well here. Every tune does a great job of complementing the setting and mood. Overall, Mother 3 has a large number of songs in its soundtrack. It's actually pretty impressive how many different themes they could fit in here, especially for a Game Boy Advance game. The graphics are pretty good as well. There's probably nothing here that will blow you away, but if you're a fan of the cartoony-looking visuals of Earthbound, you'll like these too. As mentioned earlier, there's the trademark trippy animated backgrounds during the battle sequences. Some of these are more detailed than others, but they are all nice to look at while not being too distracting. The enemy sprites are drawn well, and a lot of them are just plain silly. This silliness covers about all facets of the game. There's some pretty humorous dialogue to be found, which is cool because it helps make the typical talk-to-everyone rule feel a little bit less like a chore. Not every character will necessarily have something helpful to say, but the writers definitely did a good job in making you want to talk to everyone, with the promise of a laugh here and there. Some of the characters themselves have a comical air about them. For example, one of the bouncers at the local club is named Neckbeard. And look at this snowboarding Yeti. Whee! This kind of stuff really gives the game a charm factor that won't be rivaled by many other titles. One spot I found particularly funny was when your party eats some wild mushrooms and everything gets all brightly colored and strange. After coming back through after the mushrooms wear off, you find out that the hot springs you rested at was actually a pool of nasty sludge. Gross! The main cast of characters is varied and interesting. You have Lucas, who is a timid, loving child forced to harden as the world becomes cruel. There's Flint, Lucas's strong and proud father. Duster, the master thief. Kumatora, who is a tomboy of a princess. Boney, your faithful canine companion. No, really, that's his default name. And Salsa, the monkey. Each character has their special strengths and abilities to assist on and off the battlefield. Though there are a variety of characters, only 4 can be in your party at a time. This, however, isn't like Final Fantasy VI where you can swap out your party members at will. Rather, your party will be constructed as the story dictates at that particular time. The flow of the game is pretty linear for the most part. You usually have a good idea of what your current goal is and what location you need to head to, so it's relatively easy not to get lost. There were only a small handful of spots where I got confused on what was going on. Unlike the mostly straightforward progression of Earthbound, Mother 3's story is broken up into defined chapters. These chapters are done really well, however, and seem to separate major events in the game. Without getting too deep into spoiler territory, I will say the first few chapters of the game sort of run on top of each other. You may find yourself visiting the same spots but with different characters to tell the story from different perspectives. For example, in Chapter 2 you're playing as Duster and you run into this polite man and his monkey. Later on in Chapter 3 you find out that the monkey is being held against his will and the man is actually an abusive jerk. I feel like this is a pretty neat way of intertwining the characters. However, after visiting the same areas over and over, it can get a little tedious and makes you long for different locations. Fortunately, the story is enough to keep you interested and will eventually lead you to more varied locales. I could go on and on talking about the game or the history of the series for hours, but instead I'll offer you these 20 random great things about Mother 3, in no particular order. Number 1. PK Love. This is arguably the best offensive psychic attack in the game. In Earthbound, you got to name your ultimate attack at the beginning of the game when you name your favorite thing. Here, it's just love. If it's not your favorite thing, it should be. Number 2. Men's Room Sign. Get it? Number 2? This bizarre enemy unexpectedly jumps off of a bathroom door to attack you. While you fight it, you think, okay, it's funny, but it's just a plain ordinary enemy, until PK Starstorm! This will kill everyone if you don't heal up or defeat him before your health rolls down to 0. Number 3. Rope Snake. Anyone who's played Lucas in Super Smash Bros. Will recognize the Rope Snake. You can and will use this guy to swing over gaps. Interestingly enough, he becomes a bigger character than you might think. He can be yours for the price of a single rotten eclair. Number 4. Wall Staples. This is one of the cooler skills in the game in my opinion. Duster can use wall staples to create a ladder to climb up some vertical surfaces. This skill is not without value in battle, however, as using it will pin a single enemy to the wall, rendering them unable to attack. Number 5. Magic Butterflies. Yep, magic butterflies make an appearance here. Though less common than in Earthbound, magic butterflies will heal some of your PP, your psychic points or psychic power, whatever. If you find a spot where they spawn, it's a great way to recover health too. Use your life up skill and then use the butterflies to refill your PP. Number 6. Mapson. This old timer is master of maps, lord of location, duke of direction. If you have a place you need to get to, he'll mark it on your map. He's got those happening shades. Number 7. Fever. Every once in a while, one of your characters will get a fever, and the only prescription is walking around. You can't run or cast anything while in this state, but it goes away relatively quickly. When it does, that character will learn a new psychic ability. This is a neat way of having your characters gain their special skills, rather than just getting it when you level up. Number 8. Boney. Truly man's best friend, your family dog Boney is an asset to your team. He does what needs to be done. He can drag people out of bed, chase down a scent, and even stand on 2 feet to masquerade as a human to avoid detection. This is one super dog. Number 9. The Magypsies. This group of strange characters has been around for thousands and thousands of years. Their impressive lifespan far exceeds that of normal humans. These guys, gals, have no specified gender. Their appearance is strange, resembling that of a bearded lady at a carnival or a scruffy drag queen. With their whimsical demeanor and strange brand of wisdom, they will prove to be an integral part of the story in the later chapters. Number 10. Zombie Lady Description. After obtaining the Battle Memory item, it serves as a built-in bestiary of sorts. Here you will find a brief description of all enemies you've encountered. The description of the zombie man is pretty self-explanatory, but what really got me was the details about the zombie lady. It says, See Zombie Man's page for the description because they're exactly alike, pronouns aside, not just because the writer is lazy. That is awesome. Number 11, Save Frogs. Like any RPG, you'll want to save your game often. The save points in this game are frogs. How cool is that? It's always a relief to run into one of your amphibian friends, whether they're in a barrel of water, driving a car, or even a spooky frog ghost. Number 12, DCMC. This is the resident world's most popular band. Offering their soulful rock and roll jams, what's not to like? You can even get band apparel to wear as equipment and a concert pamphlet that is effective against any DCMC fans you should happen to come toe-to-toe with. Number 13, Mole Crickets. These bugs think they are bigger and stronger than they actually are. In fact, right at the beginning of the game, one challenges you and you take him down fast. Much later in the game and after much grueling training, the same cricket wants a rematch, and loses horribly. You get to navigate through their hole and oh my god, what is this? Number 14, the Locked Door Dance. So, at one point you reach this door that doesn't seem to budge, and the only way to open it is, well, just watch. Awesome. Number 15, Mr. Saturn Coffee Table. The Mr. Saturn Coffee Table is actually a transport. When you get on it, it'll whinny and start galloping like a horse. Any enemies in your path will be knocked down. This is the only way to travel. Ridiculous. Number 16, Construction Worker Platform. At one point in the game, you're trying to scale a building that has some areas under construction. You'll need to get across this gap, but there's nothing for you to latch onto with your rope snake. Maybe... BAM! That'll work. Number 17, Social Ghosts. In the old castle north of Tasmilly Village resides many ghost characters. Some of them are hostile, as you might imagine, but others are extremely friendly. Some of these ghosts will sell you things, a musician is playing a jaunty tune on the piano, there's a cook in the kitchen, and others that just serve as lounge patrons having a good time. Casper ain't got nothing on these guys. Number 18, Dung Beetle Trading. In the desert you can collect dung, of all things, and trade them to a dung beetle by this little oasis. He will gladly trade you experience points for the dung you bring him. With you being a low level at this point, this really helps you bulk up in addition to fighting enemies. I like how the water tastes a little dung-like, and then you find out that the beetle lost all of his dung when it rolled into the water. Nice. Number 19, Random Presents. If you've played Earthbound, then you know that instead of the standard treasure chests, you have presents. Most of these boxes have helpful items in them, but every once in a while you'll find a random tune in one. And occasionally... yeah, that was rude. Number 20, Earthbound Fan-Service. Mother 3 is a true follow-up, and the whole game is like a love letter to Earthbound. There will be some common themes, character cameos, and other little nods and throwbacks to its predecessor. They really did a good job of providing a lot of extra randomness from Earthbound that they really didn't have to. As a big fan of the game, I approve. Mother 3 is a fantastic game that will make you laugh as well as hit you right in the feels. I strongly suggest that anyone who's a fan of RPGs or even quirky titles definitely check this one out. But play Earthbound first. I think I probably got enough for that one.